Do you have any kind of hospitalization insurance?
No cost.
Unfortunately, I do not.
Your Highness, do you have any hope that your convalescence may progress so that you can leave the hospital by Christmas?
No, I don't believe I can't be here at Christmas time.
We'll be here then.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, that's right. Yes, we were, that's right. I've forgotten that.
What does Christmas mean to you?
Sadness.
To most of you,
the honor that has been conferred on you by His Majesty the King. Your Royal.
He went to the Argentine to open the British exhibition in Buenos Aires, and he has visited all the great dominions several times, having met people in all walks of life. He flies with the new king, so familiar to us as the Prince of Wales, is the best known man in the world. He is certainly the most travelled public character, and in his wanderings has enjoyed every kind of hospitality, including the triumphal drive through.
as the Prince of Wales, as a man...
He must thus be one of the world's best informed men, not only in matters of state, but also on industrial business, and he has already shown us that he does...
Practically all our military aircraft drawn up for the Royal Air Force. Everything is ready for the King's review of his air defence arm. And duly he arrives wearing for the first time his Air Chief Marshal, the Prince of Wales, and Air Vice Marshal, the Duke of York.
Beseeching God, by whom kings and queens do reign, to bless the royal prince, Edward VIII, with long and happy years to reign over us. God save the king.
It was as a boy of 16 that he went to Carnarvon Castle to kneel before his father and be invested and robed as Prince of Wales, and to be presented to the Welsh people according to the tradition set by the first king of his good old name. He is the 8th Edward. Long may he reign over us.
I am better known to most of you as the Prince of Wales, as a man who, during the war and since, has had the opportunity of getting to know the people of nearly every country of the world under all conditions and circumstances. And although I now speak to you as the king, I am still that same man who has that experience, and whose constant effort it will be to continue to promote the well-being of his fellow men.
Battlefields can show. Keep then the message of these colors ever before you. The honor of your regiment and of your country will rest safe and sure in your hands.
The climax of the ceremony has now been reached, and the king makes the actual presentation of the new colors. The colors are marched in slow time to join their battalions. Finally, the march passed, a superb display of perfect discipline.
America. The monarch's
His heart is not thrilled with loyalty and devotion as the king rides off, sentiment so soon to be turned to horror and scorn. It was at the top of Constitution Hill that the apparent attempt on the life of our king was made. There was a sudden commotion in the crowd, and a loaded revolver was seen to fall near the king's horse. A policeman dismounted and kicked the revolver aside. You can see him in the right-hand bottom corner of the picture. A man named McMahon was arrested and marched off under strong escort to Hyde Park Police Station. To be later his attempt on his life or not, the whole country joins in thankfulness that no hurt with the streets of London is to minimize the emotions of the king's subjects. Whether it was a in England, eyes turned towards the future, and it is
afternoon, Mr. Baldwin leaves Downing Street to tell Parliament the fateful news of the King's decision. Ever since the newspapers, which had observed silence for months, first uncovered the soul-rending drama being fought out in the solitude of Fort Belvedere, the whole emotional life of the nation, indeed of the entire British race, has seemed to hang poised in suspense. The figure of a woman, dumbly,
Baldwin has been recognized.
Thoughts have scanned Downing Street. Chancellor, throughout the crisis, Mr. Baldwin has driven to and fro
an honor as worthy of the institution.
You must believe me when I tell you that I have found it impossible to carry the heavy burden of responsibility and to discharge my duties as king as I would wish to do without the help and support of the woman I love.
Whereas, by an instrument of abdication dated the 10th day of December instant, His former Majesty King Edward VIII did declare his irrevocable determination to renounce the throne for himself and his descendants.
So from the documents, the Lord Mayor of London took for the instrument of abdication signed by King Edward.
We therefore, the Lords spiritual and temporal of this realm, do now hereby, with one voice and consent of tongue and heart, publish and proclaim that the high and mighty Prince Albert Frederick Arthur George is now become our only lawful and rightful liege lord, George the Sixth, by the grace of God, of Great Britain, Ireland, and the British dominions beyond the seas, King.
King Edward, now Prince Edward, bids us look in his dramatic farewell.
This decision has been made less difficult to me by the sure knowledge that my brother, with his long training in the public affairs of this country, and with his fine qualities, will be able to take my place forthwith, without interruption or injury to the life and progress of the empire. And now we all have the new king. I wish him and you, his people, happiness and prosperity with all my heart.
Well, we still man got to get. Oh, wait, the box is still sitting.
Windsors are in England for a stay of 3 weeks at a country home in Berkshire. The former Edward VIII and the wife for whom he gave up a throne have been living at various places outside of Britain ever since that famous abdication, with an occasional visit to the Duke's native land.
Sunshine on the Côte d'Argent. Breakers rolling in from the Bay of Biscay. Holidaymakers enjoying themselves at Biaritz, the famous pools. At this hotel, our cameraman spotted the Duchess of Windsor, arriving for lunch and greeting some of her friends. She and the Duke had been staying at Biarritz for some time, enjoying sun and sea. His Royal Highness joins the party on returning from a swim. They'd certainly chosen an attractive spot for a refreshing visit during the still, sultry weather.
Sir, why the decision to go ahead with surgery now, since it has been diagnosed before?
But I don't believe the doctors thought it was necessary.
And they do now, of course, obviously.
Well, I guess it is.
Doctor, when you came here, I believe there was an indication that you would just perhaps undergo tests. Is surgery now a definite thing for you?
Yeah.